championship game tonight. It is a battle of the Big Ten versus the SEC. And with that, you've got Alabama taking on Ohio State. Now, if you ask Ohio State fans, they think they're going to be completely disrespected. And being someone that's on the program that I didn't think they belonged in the college football playoff, they definitely played like a college football playoff team in their matchup against Clemson. They beat the snot out of Clemson. Okay? But on the other end, you've got the mentality of they're going to have to match up with that quote-unquote SEC speed. And will that speed be too much for this team from Ohio State? Now, when I look at Ohio State, and if you watch the matchup with Clemson, they were outstanding. They really, really were. And the idea that they're a 7-point favorite in some eyes is kind of out there. My opinion on this is very simple. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. But when you look at Ohio State, what's the one thing that you question? They really haven't been in a game where they've been challenged. So there's that. The other thing, too, is I've had folks say, especially on the Clemson front, they're so used to Clemson being in this picture. They're saying things like, man, I don't know who I'm going to cheer for this weekend or tonight. Do you have a set team that you're going to go after? Are you rooting for Ohio State because they beat Clemson and you want to be solidified as the team that, you know, hey, we lost, but we lost to the defending, what is now the national champion? Or are you an SEC apologist and you're like, you know what? I'm going to cheer for the SEC regardless. I'm going to take a look at these guys and say, you know what? We have to play them every year. They're carrying our conference's logo on their jersey. Yeah, we've got that. So which way are you going to go if you don't have a team in the mix? And we'll take your calls and your picks, by the way, at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Jaysha Online says, Clemson fans don't want to see Alabama win. Tom Brady, congratulations on your win Saturday. SEC roots for SEC. That's how it should be. Austin says he doesn't care who wins. Yeah, I'm going to watch the game tonight. Let's make sure that we're all on that page. Some people are calling for a 45-31 Alabama. I think that Ohio State is going to score points. Now, I don't know if they're going to win or not, but I think that they're going to score some points. I don't think it's going to be Alabama's going to come out there and throw a shutout. That's not going to happen. But I think Alabama has a lot of tools. And what I mean by tools is, I don't know, guy that finished in the top 5 of the Heisman at quarterback, guy that won the Heisman at wide receiver. And let's not forget Najee Harris, who can take over a game by himself. So there's that too. Anyway, would love to take your calls on the national championship game at 803-978-1832. Bama wins, OSU covers, take the over. I'm not sure what the over is. You know, I didn't look at that. And if I were more prepared as a host today, I would have that in front of me. But I'll pull that up right now as we get started here on the program today. And the over on that, let's look at that really quick here. 76.5. It's down to 75. So they're looking at like 38-37. Some folks talking about Waddle going to make Shaun Wade look stupid. Look, Waddle is an amazing player, but this is his first game back, right? I mean, the idea of him going back to return kicks, I think is out. People saying, oh, he's going to return kicks. I would be shocked. Now, if I come in tomorrow and he did return kicks last night, I will apologize. But as of right now, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, wait a minute. This guy's not going to go out there and return kicks. Now, I do think he'll be out there. And you know what? I don't know how many snaps he's going to play. Okay? But I do know this. Having him on one side and Smith on the other, if he's at 80%, 90%, that is a problem. That is a problem for Ohio State. And they're sweet in the secondary anyway. Yes, they beat the snot out of Clemson. I know that. But Ohio State is sweet in the secondary. I fully stand behind that. 803-978-1832. Tom says second half shutout for Alabama. He's calling it. We'll see on that front, brother. That's a bold thing to go with. Take a 0 in the second half as far as points for Ohio State. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. That's a bold thing to say, though. Tom also wants some thoughts on the new hire at defensive coordinator. You know what? We'll get into that right now. South Carolina announced today that, Shane Beamer came out and introduced some of these guys that are going to be the new head coaches or new assistant coaches, defensive coordinators, etc. He said one thing that was really interesting to me about the new defensive coordinator for the Gamecocks that kind of stuck out a little bit. And I went and looked it up, and not that Shane Beamer would be, telling us stories, but yeah, the defensive coordinator for the Gamecocks is, of course, Clayton White, who was the defensive coordinator at Kentucky, or Western Kentucky. Here's something that Coach Beamer said about today in his press conference today that made you think, man, maybe they've got a winner.
It wasn't a slam dunk to get him here. I'm not the only head coach in the country that recognized what a elite defensive coordinator Clayton is. We had competition out there for his services, and I'm certainly thankful to Coach Tanner and our administration for giving us the resources to get him here and battle some of these other programs that called.
Yeah, this guy was wanted across the country. And if you look at his the defense for Western Kentucky, ranked 28th in total defense in the country, 8th in the nation in passing defense, allowing just 177 yards a game. And with everyone so hell-bent on having these great offenses now, you've got a guy that's shown here that they can stop the pass, or he can coach that up. Now, he's going to need time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not think he's going to come in here and run roughshod over the SEC. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome into the rundown.
Good afternoon, Rob. It's Ray. How are you doing?
Ray, what's up, brother?
Hey, that was a good segue. I was going to talk about a few things, but Coach White, our defensive coordinator at South Carolina, of course, I'm a Gamecocks fan. I do like to hire the fact that he's been a Broyles finalist, 3 years of the last 4, I believe.
Right.
To me, that says a lot. The fact he's 44, early 40s, I think that's where I want to be with my coaches right now. And our head coach, our DC, and our OC, I believe, are like in the early 40s. I kind of like that. And also, kind of jump to a different topic here, but all
sure.
In college football. Have you ever seen a national title game, the day of a national title game, when it just seemed like it wasn't even happening? It's there isn't much interest, even from I was listening to the national shows, and heck, they're talking about NFL playoffs. I even heard one guy talk about the NBA before you even mentioned it. I'm like, I've never seen that. I don't know what college football is going to do, Rob, but man, they've got to do something to pump some season of life back into it, don't you think?
I agree with you on that front, but I also think that college football is a regional sport. And what I mean by that is that we care about it in the South. We live with it in the South. It is our absolute bread and butter in the South. But the majority of us don't care about the NFL. And I know that sounds kind of silly, and it could be political leanings. We don't want to get into that on the show. But there is a section of folks that are just like, I'm not watching the NFL. Sorry. There is a section of folks that aren't going to watch the NBA. Sorry. But I think the problem is that all of these national networks, they come out of the New York area. They do things in Los Angeles. And they're going to go where they can get more people, and they put out the message to where, if you're in New York right now, you're wondering who the Jets are going to hire. If you're in Philadelphia, you wonder who's going to replace Doug Peterson. And that's all well and good because that's what they care about. But they're trying to feed the mass audiences. That's why I think we're going to get to a point where it's going to come down to you're going to have a almost regionalized sports center. What I mean by that is like, let's just call it Sports Center South. I think that's what it's going to eventually be from the 4-letter network if they want to get to a point where they can reach more people and have people care. I think that's what's going to happen. Then you may have Sports International, which will be more of that, the stuff from the Midwest and all of that. But I think it's simply based on the fact that college football is a regional sport, and in the quote unquote big cities, they just don't care about it. And that's just the way that it is.
Yep, I agree with you 100% there. And one last thing I was going to pump in there. I wonder, with the college playoffs, I've been listening to the factions, the people saying that, we need at least 8 teams in there. But I'm thinking the majority of these people that want to add more teams to the playoff system, we got 4 now. What they really want is one of those lower tier teams to have a shot. And they just need to come out and say it. They're not really for adding, the best 8 teams or the best 5 or 6 teams, adding more teams to the 4. They just want to give the little guy a shot at it. And I just don't think you can correlate college football with March Madness. I mean, everybody loves that, that Cinderella that makes the run. I just don't think that can happen in college football.
Well, and a perfect example of this, I mean, let's just be honest about this. One of the only undefeated non-Power 5 team, and if I'm wrong on this, let me know, but I think it was just Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, they come into it, and Coastal was too. But let's just take Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati, okay? You put both of those teams together, one or the other, and you have them play any of the top 4. I'm telling you right now, I'll give them each 17 points, and they'll cover all of it. Who wants to watch more blowouts? I'm in the camp of let's have a G5 national tournament where, you've got the Final 4 in the G5 and then go from there. That makes more sense to me than saying, hey, we should get a chance to play Alabama. Why? You're not going to be able to compete with Alabama. And I know, Boise State beat Oklahoma. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime type thing there. It's not going to happen all the time. It's just not.
Nope. Well, thanks, Rob.
Appreciate it, buddy. All right, welcome. Thank you for joining the program. 803-978-1832. 425 like the old ball coach days. Yeah, if they go into that, it's going to be great. But I think that just judging by what Coach White did at Western Kentucky, man, it's going to be the Gamecocks should be eventually tough to throw the ball on. And that is what you kind of need right now. And I think a lot of that 4-2-5 type defense is going to come back where you recruit a lot of athletes that can play in the secondary and make it really hard on these quarterbacks. So, yeah, I agree with you on that, man. That's going to be great. And Tom says White will bring back the 2010 defensive swagger we haven't been able to find. Yeah, I mean, but you can – I don't know if a coach can bring that or not. You need some players that can do that too. DJ Swearinger would hit his mama for a tackle. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you on the rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. I agree with you on that, Tom, man, but I look at guys like Swearinger and how great he was. And, you even look at guys like Stephon Gilmore. They wouldn't even throw the ball at him. You got to be able to recruit some guys that are like that. You know what I mean? So when you've got guys that will do that, that's the interesting part. Mishi, what's up? Gentlemen, ladies in the chat room over here, Mishi is an Alabama fan. So she's happy as a pig in poo today that Alabama's playing for the national title. Will they burn double wides if Alabama doesn't win? You're right about that, Bubba. Gonna burn down the double wides if we don't win here today at Alabama. We're gonna burn down the double wides. I don't know why I pick at Alabama so much. You got to admit their fan base is passionate, but I mean they're kind of spoiled too. They're used to winning, man. Yeah, that South Carolina 2010 defense was really good. Let's not forget they had who they had at running back and wide receiver and everything else. They were solid, man. Old ball coach, he had him a team down there. He just had some bad luck. I mean, you know, Gamecock fans know about that. What was the year that I think it's Clowney's junior year or whatever, where they went to Tennessee and they were like a 17-point favorite and lost? What a horrible game that was, man. What a mess. By the way, Jackpot and I on the YouTube channel, we're going to do a live watch along tonight. So you guys tune in for that. That should be fun, right? So yeah, check that out as well this evening. I've got some stuff on these coaches I'm going to put out there really quick during this next segment. So some stuff I learned. Got to start speaking Alabama because they may win tonight. I learned. 8 o'clock there, Tom. 8 o'clock. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Appreciate the folks watching on Twitter and YouTube and everything else. You guys are awesome. Quick rundown on these coaches that came to South Carolina. Of course, Marcus Satterfield's going to take over the offense. 20 years of experience in the coaching ranks, 2 years as a head coach at Tennessee Tech. Past 3 years working under Matt Rule, who's up at South Carolina. That other TO22, which will be Coach, I say Coach, but Terrence Oglesby, my buddy. Yes, we're going to talk some hoops. We're going to talk a little bit later on about Clemson's 12th in the country. Wow, I was stunned by that by the AP today. And when will they get back on the court? And by the way, this is the first season I think Clemson fans were looking forward to going to North Carolina because I think Clemson would have drubbed North Carolina. North Carolina cannot shoot the basketball. May get Coach Oglesby there to talk about that. They're having some problems up there. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting, to say the least. But Clemson's kind of in a COVID pause right now, so we'll have to figure out when they're going to get back on the court. Anyway, we'll get to some hoops in a little bit. Coach Satterfield, though, 20 years, of course, spent some time with Matt Rule, and he talked about at East Tennessee State, of course, he was an offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. So this guy is very impressive in his numbers and what he does. Was at Chattanooga, UT Martin, all over the place. So the idea of this guy coming in, and of course, spending that time in the NFL, working with offensive linemen. Yeah, that's important too. And remember, I'm the kind of guy that I believe the game is won in the trenches. And when's the last Gamecock offensive lineman that you remember that was like really standoutish? It's like, all right, this guy's really good. Start winning those games in the trenches, you're going to be all right. And then we go back to Coach White, who is a 3-time Frank Broyles Award nominee, which means that he was one of the best coaches best assistant coaches in the country, 2017, 2019, and 2020. And what Coach Beamer said is right. There were lots of people that were looking to hire Coach White away from Western Kentucky. As I said earlier, 2020, 28th in total defense, 177 yards passing through the air, 68 pass defended, and the defense scored 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty good numbers there for him. 2019, top 25 overall defense, multiple 4-2-5 schemes, allowed only 20 points a game, the lowest mark for that program since 2004, and ranked number 20 in FBS. He also coached some great players that ended up being the Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year. So this guy is interesting, to say the least. They're asking, Tom's asking, who was he linked to? He worked with Matt Rule and worked under his staff up at with the Carolina Panthers, and of course with the guy that was the pass at Canada. What is his name? I can't remember his name. My brain's kind of messy with me right now. But yeah, as far as he goes, interesting stuff there on that front with those 2 coaches and the strength and coordinator coach from Marshall, who was at Marshall for a long time before coming here. So if you want to respond to anything on those coaches, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. We'll also do our national championship game predictions. I forgot to get our first caller's prediction on the national championship game. I feel bad about that. several people have given us their answers over here on Facebook and Twitter and everything else, and that's awesome. That's great stuff. But if you want to call in and give us your stuff, 803-978-1832. We do have some announcements as far as players coming back. And by the way, that's why it's really important to follow me on my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. I put out a bunch of information there as quickly as I can get it. And you can just go and, keyword Rob up top, or just click line up on the side there on your little mobile device. The first, former Clemson defensive tackle Niles Pinckney, the Buford product, is going to go to the land of the Big Ten. Man, I tell you what, I don't know if I want to go to the Big Ten with all the snowing that's up there, but he's going to play at Minnesota. I think this came down to he just wasn't going to get enough snaps at Clemson. He looks at Brian Brzee and Tyler Davis and says, you know what? I don't know if there's enough room in there for me. Or maybe there was something said in the exit interview of, hey, you never know what goes on behind the scenes, but he's decided to take his wares to Minnesota and boom, and then go from there. Also today, there was another interesting thing. C.J. Spiller will be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Of course, the running back kick returner played at Clemson 2006 to 2009. Great player for Clemson. He's one of those guys, when he did run the ball, if he got into space, you kind of stood up because you were like, man, this guy could take it the distance pretty much every time. He will be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. So you can read the full story on that on the blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. Also, Clemson running back Darian Rencher has decided to return for next season. Now, Rencher is the guy that is known more for his off-the-field stuff and his leadership capabilities than what he can do on the field, but he finished with 134 yards and a touchdown this season. But having him in that running back room, especially with Travis Etienne moving on to the NFL, it's great to have a senior running back in there. So I think that's a good thing for Clemson. It's always great to have upperclassmen who seem to have their stuff together that can kind of make things go for any team. So that's out there as well. And there was one other note. Oh, this was my favorite, by the way. I found this, yesterday? Could Deshaun Watson be traded to the Miami Dolphins for Tua Tagovailoa? Yes. The report from ESPN says that he's unhappy with the handling of their GM search, coaching search, and their insensitivity to social justice. They told Chris Mortensen. Informed speculation is that Watson could consider waiving his no-trade clause to join the Miami Dolphins in a swap for Tua Tagovailoa, a source tells Chris Mortensen. Oh, man. You talk about like Twitter catching fire with that yesterday. Wow, that would be some insane stuff. Now, me personally, I have a mentality of, and this is the same way that I feel about everything. If you are someone that wants to say, hey, I don't want to be here, then guess what? I don't want you here. I've heard, I always use this as an example. I listened to Bruce Pritchard's podcast, which is a great podcast. You should check it out. But he talks about Vince McMahon, who is the owner of the WWE and who's been doing this a long time as far as dealing with supersized egos and everything else. If you're going to tell people, yeah, I don't like being here, it's going to poison your locker room and you shouldn't be there. Now, I'm not saying that Deshaun, and we don't know exactly if all of this was coming from Deshaun, or maybe he just said this in an off moment or whatever. Man, I wish they would look at somebody like this or that. I'm not saying that that's the whole end of it, but I am saying if they ask Deshaun Watson, do you want to be here? And he tells them that they don't, then I'm going to find somewhere to put you. And what I mean by that is we're going to find somewhere for you to play. Okay. But understand, he signed a 5-year contract with the Houston Texans, and he should honor that contract. I fully believe that with everything that's in me. If you sign a contract, you sign your own gig, you got to deal with it. Simple as that. All right. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 1832 is the number to call. You can join us on the rundown this afternoon. We'll talk about that, and we'll give you our predictions for the national championship game in just a moment. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. I got you. I'll give it to you in a little bit there, Tom, right after this segment. What's up, Colby? Jerome. I think if you sign your contract, you got to stay. I know that sounds like I'm being off, but you signed a contract, do what you got to do. Now, I do think that Houston's terrible, but when Michael Jordan signed with the Bulls were terrible. Yeah, I mean, I don't get it, man. Well, welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Taking your calls at 803-978-1832. If you want to talk about Deshaun Watson, should he just fulfill his contract or should he be able to determine some things? What I mean by that is that, you know, should he be able to say, you know what, I don't want to play here anymore? He doesn't have a no trade clause in his contract for that. Quick notes over here. People were asking me about who's my Super Bowl pick. Well, my Super Bowl pick is I am biased. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers because I'm a Packers fan, and I just think they're the best team in football. Now, saying that, I think Green Bay got the shaft this week with their whole thing of who they ended up playing. The Los Angeles Rams have what I think is one of the better defenses in football. And it would not surprise me if they went into Lambeau Field this weekend and beat the Green Bay Packers. Would not surprise me in the least. So there's that. All right. Now, we could talk NFL stuff if you wanted. 803-978-1832. There were interesting games this weekend. This weekend, though, is really interesting with the divisional round with, Kansas City and Green Bay getting into the mix, too. The Browns last night with the Steelers, hilarious. Because Steeler fans, man, they walk around, they stick their chest out, the black and yellow and all that, and they're all, their wide receivers saying, oh, it's just the Browns. Man, the Browns finally were the big brother last night, or the little brother, that slapped the big brother around. 28 points in the first quarter, the game was over. And then people, by the way, Steelers fans eat themselves. What I mean by that, Ben Roethlisberger threw for 500 yards, and they were still mad at him. Yeah. The same Steeler fans when they were 11-0, they were not they were all on the Steeler train, but not necessarily on the Ben Roethlisberger train. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Ben Worthlessberger. He's just one of the best quarterbacks in Steelers history. We'll just call him Worthlessberger, though. Fans are outstanding. I love that passion, though. They think that he cost them the game. Yeah, he threw interceptions, but you wouldn't have gotten that far without Ben Roethlisberger. Let's make sure that we understand that. All right, we'll take calls on that too at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. I don't know if my Packers have enough defense. We shall see. I do think they have enough on the offensive side, though. Oof. Aaron Rodgers is in sync, ladies and gentlemen. But that defense with Donald for Los Angeles is crazy. Someone wrote that theirs is Breeze retiring. He saw a report. I don't know. I have to check on that. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
What's up, Rob?
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, I just was calling. I ran across a little stat that I'm not too sure very many people know of. I figured I'd share it with everybody.
All right. Spit it out, my friend. What you got?
Apparently, every single person at Alabama that Nick Saban's brought in has themselves a nice, shiny championship ring.
Wait. What?
How long he would keep.
Wait. Repeat that.
Every single player that Alabama or Nick Saban has brought into Alabama has walked out with a national championship ring since he's been there.
That's a heck of a stat, and that's probably right. I'll have to look that up because I think they won the national title in his third year there. So that would make sense. But there may be somebody that transferred out or whatever. I don't know, but that's tough, man.
People who did their full 4 years.
Yeah, that's still tough, man. But you can't really argue with Nick Saban, man. He's just outstanding. Outstanding coach.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a black hole in college football whenever he decides to hang it up.
He may never hang it up, man. He may just he's just had his hip replaced, but he still looks like he's got a lot of fire, and I think he's obviously one of the best coaches in football. They still bring in, this is something that I don't get. You know, he goes to these folks, and he's 72, 73 years old, but he still manages to convince 18-year-olds, hey, to come and play for me, even though, let's be honest, when you leave, I'm going to be past the life expectancy for the average male in the United States. So, I mean, I don't know how he does it on the recruiting trail and he's able to get the players he's getting, but he is a great coach. I mean, you can't even remotely argue that. So,
yeah, and it just seems that, especially in the NFL, that a lot of the coaches seem to be getting younger and younger nowadays. So,
yeah, buddy. Hey,
that's the thing that everything's moving on. But I appreciate you taking the call.
No problem, buddy. Have a great day. Thanks for calling the Rundown. All right, here we go. Back out to the phones. Good afternoon. Welcome into the Rundown.
How you doing, Rob? It's Bobby and KC.
Bobby, what's up, brother?
Well, this is what's on my mind. You know, I'm an old man. I turned 57 on Friday.
That's not old. Stop it. 57 is the new 37. I want to hear you're old.
I have watched NFL football, and I'm not a Steelers fan since 1971. First game I can remember, I can recall, was the Dolphins-Cowboys Super Bowl. Those Dolphins got slaughtered right after Shula came to the team.
Right.
From Baltimore. And the Steelers, I probably remember my first game with watching them in 73 and 74, and I'm not excited they lost, but their defense never looked as awful as it ever did yesterday. All the years with the Steel Curtain, you're old enough to remember them. You know, the young people got to Google that on their phones. And then Dick Duron was there for so long. There's countless Hall of Famers that should be in on the Hall of Fame that played on the 70s Steelers defense. They looked awful. I mean, I was looking at the stats. Roethlisberger had good stats on offense compared to Mayfield, but the defense just didn't show up. So, I mean, it was incredible. I stayed up way past this old man's bedtime to watch that whole game, man. It was something else. I've never seen the Steelers look that awful. So, I mean, I just thought I'd mention that. I can't get on national shows. The line's too long. So,
well,
I just wanted to say that on one local or national show, so I picked yours. So I'll let you go. I know you're ready to essentially get some more callers and go off the air at 4 p.m. So have a good day there, Rob.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you, man. I appreciate you joining the show. You know, once they're down 28-0 in the first quarter, you could have went to bed. I did the old, I call it the follow-on tee. And what I mean by that is that we had a nice fire at my house last night. We're sitting around the fireplace and all that because it was cold out. And watching a little bit of that game. They went down big time. And, of course, my wife doesn't watch football. She's just like, yeah, whatever. Guys running around, awesome. But she's big into, the Marvel stuff. So I'm like, all right, we'll watch one of the Marvel movies. So we watched Ant-Man last night. And I followed it on T, which means I followed the game on Twitter. I thought the game was over, and Bobby should have just went to bed. You're down by 28. There's nothing to see here. Then you can feel bad tomorrow if they rally, but pretty sure if you get down by 28 points, it's probably just going to make you mad. If you're down 28 points in one quarter, that is a blowout, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, shout out to the Dog Pound, man. They were rioting on Twitter last night, all happy about finally taking down the monster in the Steelers. So they have to play Kansas City now, which is a completely different animal, and they may get lit up for 7,000 yards. You never know. But we'll see how that matchup comes this weekend. As I watched the first quarter, and I had enough in my brain. I was like, man, the Steelers are not having it tonight. They are just not with it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Tom says, hasn't stayed true to his diet and too many margaritas. I'm trying to be more healthy, man. I'm drinking the sugar-free Red Bull. A little pick-me-up in the middle of the day. It doesn't have any sugar in it, so that's a good thing. It's better than the peach Red Bull that I really like, which has like 9,000 grams of sugar. So we're all trying to, keep ourselves more healthy as we start the new year. So, yeah. Anyway, my national championship pick. I know people are saying I'm putting it off, but yeah, I've got my national championship pick. Once I get back from this break, I will give you my national championship pick and what I think is going to happen on both sides of the ball. So we'll get into that when we come back. Don't forget, Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk is up next. He is the czar of Clemson sports. Teddy Hefner's on in the mornings from 9 to noon. You can check out his show right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. He had a great interview with Jake Bentley, former Gamecock quarterback. I posted that on my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. Jake Bentley's, of course, going to play for South Alabama. Talked a little bit about his decision to go there. Very interesting stuff there with Jake Bentley. And what I'm thinking maybe his final spot, I don't know. We'll see. More of the rundown in just a moment here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yo, Tom, people are talking about, someone was arguing with me last night about the whole thing of, that New Orleans kind of owned Tampa Bay this year. They beat them by 11 and then by 35. I don't know, man. I still think it's tough to beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. You got to have your stuff together, in my opinion. We'll see how that works out, but yeah, I don't think Watt's going anywhere else, man. He's stuck. He ain't going anywhere else. Sad that it ended up like that. That's what I said. Beating Tom Brady in the playoffs is not easy. It's not the easiest thing in the world. People think I'm silly when I say that. Stop the nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. It's tough. Final segment of the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Thanks for checking us out. Some comments from the chat room over here. Brady's a different animal in the playoffs. You're absolutely right. And that's why, you look at New Orleans lost to them or beat them by 11 and then by 35. That's not happening. Don't believe me. Las Vegas has them as a 3.5 point underdog, not 11, not 35. Saints fans are just saying, hey, they're just going to roll over. No, man, that's not the way it's going to work. There is a ton of pride on that Bucs team with with Brady and Leonard Fournette, who people seem to forget. He's a pretty good running back. He can do some things. So, yeah, let's see how that goes with that matchup. That's probably one of the more intriguing matchups of the weekend. Right behind that, Green Bay, and maybe that's just me being a homer. Don't have a problem saying that. You've got the matchup with Green Bay and the Rams. I don't know how the Rams are going to play, but in that cold, because it's going to be, the high is 25, which I guess is better than negative 15, but it's just cold up there in Green Bay, man. Let's see how that works out for them. All right, my national championship stuff. Here's what I got. Ohio State, when they have the ball, their offense finally clicked at the wrong time for the Clemson football team. What I mean by that, they averaged 8.9 yards a play, scored 49 points. Now, of course, Justin Fields is a big part of it. I don't know how healthy Justin Fields is. There's talk of maybe his thumb is messed up. There's talk that he had a rib injury against Clemson. That's fine. They can do things to protect him. And the reason they can protect him is because they have that running back, Sermon. Trey Sermon, the Oklahoma transfer, has 886 yards this fall. 524 of those have come in the last 2 games. So on that side of the ball, they are outstanding. Now, look out for Chris Olave, who lit up Clemson, and Fields working especially on the post route from what I've watched. Now, once again, I'm not a coach. I'm just telling you what I watched, and as a fan, this is what I see. They like to throw that post route a lot, especially in second down situations. Well, they'll throw it in second down. They'll have a simple post route, especially when they're on their side of the 50. They throw the post route a good bit, and sometimes it doesn't open up, but they don't challenge the sidelines as much. At least they didn't against the Clemson. And I watched a little bit of the Northwestern game too, but Olave didn't play in that game. So there are a lot of tools there for Ohio State. Now, I want to put this out there too. There's a section of folks that are like, man, Ohio State doesn't have a chance. Just slow down a little bit. Slow down a little bit. All right. Now, do they deserve to be in the college football playoff? Absolutely not. I stand by that. I've said it from the beginning. Play a full season. Okay. But they're there, and we have to give them credit for what they've done. They beat a really good Clemson team. Okay. I still don't think they should have been there, should have went to Texas A&M, etc. All right. But since they're there, we have to give them credit for what they've done. So on that side of the ball, those are the big playmakers. Olave and Fields are going to be very important tonight for Ohio State. Now, I think they're going to give Sermon the ball a good bit, trying to keep that Alabama offense off the field, because Smith and Waddle and Mac Jones can't hurt you when they're sitting on the bench. And I think Ohio State's going to try to control the clock a little bit, especially with Sermon, run a good bit, and then go from there. Now, I think it's also going to be like a pinball machine too, scoring back and forth, and it may come down to who scores last. But when Alabama has the ball, it's the same story, man. They're going to protect Mac Jones because they've got a good offensive line. Najee Harris is probably going to go for over 100 yards. And then you've got the guys that if Waddle's 100% on one side, that's going to be a problem. And then on the other side, you've got the Heisman Trophy winner. So Alabama has a lot of tools as well. And I don't care what anybody says, the secondary for Ohio State is suspect at best. At best. Now, if they come in and they shut down Alabama tonight, I will come in tomorrow and I will apologize to the secondary for Ohio State. But until then, it's just not happening. In my opinion, they're just not completely with it. And I think that Mac Jones is going to have a field day. Now, can he not make mistakes? Fumbling, etc. And will they juice up the ball? What I mean by that is will they blitz a lot? Will they make him make quick decisions? Okay. The Alabama defense can be scored upon, but Ohio State is suspect at best. So there you go with that. Brentley says Ohio State going to run their mouth. We ain't know what a joke. Yeah. I hear you on that, my friend. Here's the big thing on that though. Jones connected on 77% of his passes, 4,036 yards, 36 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. led or tied in the SEC in completions of a game of 40 yards or more at 16, which means they make a lot of big plays. That's why I say tonight's game is going to be, I like the over. It's 77. Yeah. Give me Alabama to win the game. I'm going to go 46-39. I think it's going to get that. It's going to be a pinball machine game. Back and forth all day long with lots and lots of offense. It'll be like an Arena League football game. But I don't think they'll cover the 7.5? It's up to 9 in some spots. I think Ohio State's going to score some points. But look for Alabama to win the national title tonight. And it's not just my dislike of Ohio State for being in the playoffs. I just think Alabama's got a little bit more on offense, in my opinion. To be fair, the mark of whether or not a secondary is suspect or not shouldn't be if they can cover Waddle and Smith. Yeah, I get that. But Indiana lit them up. Okay? They've been really having some issues with their secondary. And it's not just me that thinks this. I checked out some of the Ohio State fan sites, and their fans can see it too. It is suspect. Suspect at best. All right, got time to take calls this afternoon, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to get involved with the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Appreciate everybody checking out the blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. You've also got my buddy Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk coming up next. He will guide you through the rest of the day if you want to check that out. By the way, they did a simulcast. We were talking about Nickelodeon, but where they simulcast the NFL games. With like in the first, I think it was 25 minutes, they had their first F-bomb dropped on national TV as far as Nickelodeon goes. I can't, like, my kids aren't old enough to watch Nickelodeon anymore. They're watching, anime and all that other stuff. But I can't imagine going to Nickelodeon with my 5 or 6 year old kid or whatever and seeing an NFL game. I'd be like, what is wrong with the TV? And then all of a sudden you got some NFL player dropping an F-bomb. Here's the thought with all that. If you're going to broadcast to a network with kids, and by the way, a lot of the stuff they did was really cool, but if you're going to broadcast to a network with kids, maybe you shouldn't have the microphones down there on the field that close. Just saying. One of the mess ups from the weekend. 803-978-1832. We're getting ready to head out of here, but that was one of my funny things that I took away from this weekend. I also liked a couple things I did like. The Bills played pretty well with Josh Allen. He looks like a completely different quarterback. They're going to be an interesting team to watch. The Bears are terrible. Let's see if we can get one more call in really quick here. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, have you been?
Good, man. I got about a minute. Have at it.
Okay, I watched a couple of football games. The only one I bet on was the Baltimore. We got in. I got to say one thing. The best game I watched yesterday was the Lady Gamecocks.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of ladies basketball, but I could get my eyes off it. And they came from behind. And those two players, number 1 and number 3, Destiny and Miss Cook,
yep.
They are terrific. Destiny reminded me of Cheryl Swoop so many years ago. Thank you again.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much. All right, one more call before we get out of here. Good afternoon. Welcome to the rundown.
What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Got about 30 seconds, buddy. Have at it.
Hey, Southern Miss to the top. We're back, man. We got 5 Power 5 transfers coming from the 3 of them from the SEC. Let's go.
Southern Miss getting a shout out on the program today. Hey, man, thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, have a good day. All right, there you go. The people are enjoying what Southern Miss is doing. I think what Deion Sanders is doing is going to be even better, by the way. He's getting a lot of horses down there. They're going to dominate some FCS stuff. All right, thanks for checking out the show today. Podcast will be up shortly. Clemson Sports Talk is up next. Thanks for checking us out here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Hey, man, you guys rock over there. I appreciate y'all. Thanks so much. Don't forget tonight, we're going to do Jackpot and I are working together. We're going to do the whole national championship thing. It's going to be fun. So I got to figure out what team I'm cheering for. Maybe I should just make a wager on one team and then I'll care. because I don't really care who wins. So you guys feed to me who you think I should cheer for tonight and tell me how much I should bet, and we'll make a bet. All right. Thank you, guys. You guys have a great day.